Me? Yes, we are live. Hi, this is Queen K, and we are on the special hangout show with the lovely Da-Nay Macklin and Chris Macklin. And they're joining us in this special topic titled Why Do Married Men Cheat? And this is part two. The special reason they're on is that my wonderful sister friend Da-Nay wrote this amazing book titled where is it? Where's my title? Where's my title? Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Love After Adultery. There you go. She's got the book right there. And tell us a little bit about yourselves to the viewers that may not know who you are. Speak to us.
Well, we're married. Take a guess. Of course, gotta have a sense of humor around here. But I'm Da-Nay Macklin. I am a motivational speaker, certified life and business coach, entrepreneur, mastermind, facilitator, and of course, author of Love After Adultery, The Breakthrough Journey of the Brokenhearted. And I'm a mother and a proud wife, proud mother.
That's
and
amazing.
I'm Chris. I'm a husband, a father, videographer, and a real estate investor. Pretty simple on my end.
Very good. Yes, these two, I actually know them personally. I was fortunate enough to spend some time with you when we did we co-authored the book, and we had the launch in Chicago titled The Unstoppable Woman's Guide to Emotional Well-Being. And I had an amazing time with you. You were such a gracious hostess and host, and your daughter was just amazing. So
thank you. And you were an amazing guest. It was our honor to host you anytime.
I felt so special. I mean, I really did. So, a lot of people, I've had a few of these shows with different topics, and I guess because it's, a lot more people are getting involved in it, the question is, like why men? But actually, I talked about women, and I have another topic coming soon about why women are not our best keepers. I haven't yet figured out the topic, but you know how we kind of like get catty with each other. But I think this is so appropriate because you've actually had the experience, and you actually wrote a book about it, and you have some knowledge to share. So, and wasn't your book or a part of your story featured on OWN Network, on Oprah's channel?
It was on the show called Unfaithful, Stories of Betrayal, and it was the season finale last season.
Wow, amazing. Yeah, I think I kept trying to watch it, but I couldn't figure out the actual date and the time because of the East Coast, West Coast time thing, but I'm definitely going to catch it.
Got a lot of time zones, right?
I know. So, quick question. Why the book? Talk to us.
Well, the reason I wrote the book is because it was our story, and I believe, of course, through our testimonies, we will be set free, but it's not so much about setting us free because we've been there and done that. It's about setting other married couples specifically free, but then also relationships that go through this unfortunate dilemma. And when you're going through it, you feel hopeless, you feel deserted. I mean, there's just all these negative emotions, and there's different books out there, but none of them really come from a personal testimony. There's more academic, knowledge. And so wanting to be able to put our lives out there to show people the process of how to navigate such a journey.
Wow. And, what made you become honest and upfront about unveiling what happened to you?
Well, my husband will probably tell you I'm an open book naturally, so it came very natural to me. However, of course, I had to consult the mister here to make sure, that's putting a lot of your business out there. And as you know, within our community and within the African American community, let me be very specific, we're taught not to air your dirty laundry and put it out there. But again, people want to know they're not alone. And if you don't put it out there, then you don't know you're not alone. So I felt it was very important as part of our legacy, and we're spiritual people. So I felt led that this was what God wanted to do, and using our marriage for the betterment and benefit of other marriages.
Okay. So I have a question. This is for Chris. And it's just a straight question because we do have the topic, right? Why do married men cheat? And this is not to put you on the spot or to even make you feel bad or anything. This is just to hear your own personal reason why it happened.
Oh, that was the question. Why did it happen?
Yeah, why did you cheat?
Well, for me, it was more of a time thing, I guess I would say. At the time, Da-Nay was working a lot, and I wasn't getting the attention that I guess felt inside that I needed or wanted. And of course, then you have tensions between one another, and I was vulnerable to the outside world. I mean, it's like anything. If when you catch a cold, you're not taking care of yourself. You're too busy working, then going to take care of other people and do these other activities, and you forget to take care of yourself. And then what happens? You catch a cold, then you're sick. It's the same concept. I fell into it. I wasn't doing my part either by trying to defend myself against the outside world and to become, I'm not going to say a victim, to participate in an adulterous situation.
And Da-Nay, how did you come to knowledge of this, and what did you do?
How did I learn about it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I believe, and let me just kind of preface this, because of course this is not always an easy conversation to talk about and to have. And, you know, we're honored and humbled to be on your show, that you even asked us there. So, you know, we already understand it's not putting us on the spot. I mean, because again, we put her, you know, on there. So, you know, I just want you to feel comfortable in asking us any and everything. And then of course, along with your guests, if they have questions, you know, because some people hold back. And you don't really get set free holding back. You know, you can't conquer what you're not willing to confront. So let's talk about it. So to answer your question,
goosebumps.
because you know, so often, and you know, me and you, we get down to the nitty gritty. But you know, this is kind of a topic where you can just scale the surface, and that's not what I'm about. You know, what you're about, what we're about here. So to answer your question, I'm a firm believer, what's done in the dark will always come to light. And, you know, God actually has showed me, it was kind of funny, to make a long story short, I was backing out his car. It was a situation where he wasn't able to put his car, you know, I guess into the garage, or I had to get mine out. Anyway, I had to move his car, and his cell phone had fallen out of his pocket. And of course, that little voice called instinct and intuition stepped in and said, open it up and check the text message. I mean, it was clear as day. And I'm not one to go snooping, you know, through his phone. So I kind of was a little bit reluctant, but also I've learned in life to be in tune with your intuition, your higher power, your instincts. So when I opened it up and went directly to the text, you know, it was a text message. You know, I'll never forget it. You know, said last night was well worth it. So, of course, I proceeded to go through the history and everything. And that's, you know, how I found out.
Wow. Wow. And yet you two look the picture of a very just in love, in tune, and in sync. And so, you know, I guess the good news is that you guys survived. Did it take a while to get through this, honestly?
It did. I'm sorry. Go ahead, honey.
Well, I was going to say, well, everything takes a while, especially when you're building or rebuilding. And it's not that we weren't in love or didn't like each other or what have you. It was a situational thing that happened, and you know, it's growing pains. You live, you learn, you move on. Not saying that it's something easy to move on from or to get through, but it does take time, it takes effort, and it takes people to be understanding of both sides.
Another thing that I want to add to that is what you said, you know, we have survived it. And I like to make the distinction that people survive and people thrive. And according to statistics, 78% of couples survive affairs. However, only 22% thrive. And I like to take pride in now that, you know, we're not just surviving, you know, we're actually thriving as a result of this, because we actually took the time to become part of that 22% that thrive afterwards, and really understanding why did this happen, so that we could, you know, prevent it from happening again, especially in those areas there. You know, we know the things to be mindful of, and we know that, you know, we drew a line in the sand to say, okay, going forward, we're not going to allow this to happen. We don't want for this to infiltrate, you know, our marriage again there. So happy to be in that 22% club of thriving, baby.
Wow, that's amazing. So, and now you're an infidelity coach. So, what inspired you to become an infidelity coach?
Good question. For me, I remember being in a real dark place when this happened, and I'm, as you know, that very happy-go-lucky, joyous, optimistic person. And, you know, I always kind of jokingly say now, if someone would have came to me with a crystal ball and said this was going to break me and crush me, I would have been like, please, I've been through more in my life, but it did that. And I remember going to counseling, you know, once a week. And I was good for maybe about an hour or two, maybe even 3 after counseling. But then after that, I had no resource. No, here, let me preface this, no real resource, like someone that I could talk to that has really been there, done that, gone through that journey to validate where I was at. And most of all, help me paint the picture that it's realistic for me to be able, for us, to be able to redesign our marriage to a better place. So that really inspired me and motivated me to form this new business, to be able to assist other married couples and you know, in particular, you know, wives, to show them how to navigate this so that they have hope and, you know, have a process to follow to get their marriages not only back on track, but better than what they ever were.
Yeah. And this message is this question is for Chris. A lot of times when, you know, when the message or the question is posed, many people say if a guy steps out on his relationship, that it's the wife's fault. What is your take on that?
Every situation is different. I mean, nothing is cookie cutter. We as adults should know this by now. That's just how it goes in life. My personal opinion is no, it's not necessarily the wife's fault, because you have a say in what you do. So you do have to take accountability for your actions. And until you do that, I mean, you're not going to move forward. Some people will always try and point the finger. And when you're going back and forth trying to figure this out, why it happened, and all the other mess that comes along with it, you have to choose your words carefully, because they will, even though you're trying to express yourself and get everything out, you'll start saying, well, you, and that's not quite what you really mean. It's just trying to express yourself and tell what happened and what led up to it. So you do have to take accountability for your actions as well.
I see. So basically what I'm hearing you say is that when we're speaking of a guy in particular, right? And so let's say for a typical guy and his wife, they're together, the wife is faithful and the husband is unfaithful. You're saying that he should just own up to his own part that it's part of the healing process. It's just being responsible instead of trying to point fingers at the wife who did not defile the marriage, right? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. And I can't speak for every guy, and I can't speak for every wife out there. There may be some situations where the wife is treating the man bad. I don't know, whatever's happening in the bedroom, whatever the case may be. There may be that situation. But then again, there's a situation where guys are just going to do it because they want to do it, no matter how good the
Because
wife is. And so you have to find out what the core problem is or was at the time and deal with it and meet it head on.
I see. In this particular instance, I'm speaking to a wife that's like Da-Nay, who's dedicated, committed, and is doing everything that she could possibly do to be committed to the marriage. And do you understand what I mean? So there are many different instances. So, but this is like plain and simple. She's just doing her part and believes that you are just as committed, or the man is just as committed. So you're basically saying, man, whoever it is that is stepping out should man up to it, and remember why, I guess, why they're in this in the first place, because it takes two for this journey for it to be solid. You know what I mean? Two people on the same boat.
Well, it actually takes three, but I get what you're saying.
Tell me about that.
Well, here, let me just get disclaimer. As far as not three is in the third person, but three from.
I was getting to that. I can.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to make sure.
See, this is what we go through.
I love
This is how we communicate. This is how we talk.
I love it.
Thing down, and she knows what. But I got this one. This is
you me. Got it.
I'm pretty sure what my wife was going to say is the same thing I was going to say. It's going to take her, me, and God. You got to have a spiritual base. Even if you're not religious, just some higher thought and thought process to make things work. And as you were saying, someone like Da-Nay, dedicated, so forth and so on, to the marriage. Yes, someone has to be that. Both people have to be that, actually. And I was that too. It was one little thing that grew to, it was cancerous. It just grew and grew and grew. And we couldn't really see it because we were in it.
Yeah.
So
it's like some people say you have to be out of the picture to see, like the whole frame.
Yep.
You can't see the frame for the picture.
Yeah. Like if you're in the picture, you can't really see all the things that are going haywire. But when you're out of it, you can look and be like, oh my God,
exactly.
Breaking down, or this is happening. Wow. So I have this other question. Wow. This is a very, it's good to hear from a male perspective, honestly, because I think that gives, it humanizes you, and at the same time, it makes us understand the way guys think. And I have a question from a viewer who doesn't want to be online. She says that she suspects her husband of cheating, and she has asked him many times, but he says no. So what is the best way to confront a suspected cheater besides going through his things?
Yeah.
What were the question? Was that directed at Chris?
Either one of you.
Okay.
So,
well, what's that?
No, I was saying that this is a question that someone who, emailed in. She just says she's asked questions and she can't find any evidence, and she doesn't really want to go through that whole process. So how can she confront her husband?
Well, it's a few different ways of doing that. And one of the things I did was I actually outlined it in my book, because what happens is you have to consider the person. For someone like me, I'm more confrontational. So I don't have a problem asking, things that I want to know. However, there are some, women or people, I should say, that are non-confrontational. So you want to actually navigate, and I, like to show as far as the people here in the book, there is the direct approach. And I don't know if, can you see this okay, Kay?
Yes, I can see that.
Okay, so in it, to kind of, have that flow chart to be able to navigate the conversation. So to specifically answer your question, if you're dealing with, it starts off at the top, says, I have a reason to believe that you're having an affair. Are you? So that, of course, is a direct approach. And then, let's say the spouse is actually caught off guard, and says, what are you talking about? So then your response after that may be, I've noticed that, you're coming home from work late. So you're really trying to address the behavior and not so much the accusation, kind of just, I don't think this, but, based on the difference in your behaviors, different observations, patterns and things there. So to Chris's point earlier, you're not as accusatory. You have some premise, some observations, some patterns, behaviors there to say, I've noticed, X, Y, Z, and then give them the floor to talk about it. And then if they continue to deny that, bringing it back in a way that, I'm not accusing you of this per se, but, or don't say but, at the same time, I'm feeling this way or I'm seeing these things, so I have reason to be of concern. Or then you can pose it in a way, if the shoe is on the other foot. So let's just say, if we turn the table and I break protocol where maybe I've gotten off work and I call you every night, and then all of a sudden I'm not calling you, I'm not responding to your voicemails or to your text messages there. So maybe it doesn't feel as threatening when you're kind of more so posing some hypotheticals there, but it definitely is different ways to navigate that conversation.
So I have another question for you, Da-Nay. This is from a viewer, and she says, how did she look at him after the betrayal? Like, how were you able to, how were you able to look at him? How easy was it for you?
Well, thank you for the question, Anonymous. It was hard. It was really hard because, I like to, give the visual for those people who've seen The Best Man. Morris Chestnut is standing, even after he's, tried to get over this hump, he's standing at the altar and having these flashbacks. So over and over and over again. And not that I was physically there, but our mind likes to play tricks on us, or we create various images and scenarios in our heads. So of course, every time I would look at him, I'm thinking about, just keeping it real, okay, did he do the same thing with her that he did with me? What was different? So there's, one of the things I suggest to couples is full disclosure. If you're going to move forward in your marriage and make any effort, you have to have that full disclosure, meaning laying all your cards on the table and you're not holding back, and being able to answer the other's questions very open and honestly. And that was one of the things that really helped expedite, one of the biggest challenges, or more, I should say, frequently asked question is, how do you forgive and how do you restore trust? Well, when this person shows a great level of vulnerability and being able to answer my questions honestly, I'm like, okay, he's being honest with me. He's not lying to me and adding, fuel to the fire, but it's like, okay, so I can get some peace of mind and really understand, why this happened. So to answer the question, it was very difficult to look at him. However, his willingness, we could get back centered.
I'd like to also add, Da-Nay said full disclosure. You also have to remember, any question that you ask, you are going to get some type of answer to. And you have to be willing to accept the answer, good, bad, pretty or ugly, no matter how it is. You have to be willing to accept it and not jump on it and make that into some other issue. If it is an issue, handle it at a later time, but stick with what's really going on.
Yeah. So, Danae did touch on this a little bit, and the person that asked that question asked another question, and she said, "Will you ever be able to trust him again?" And I think you said that you guys have full disclosure, and then you um, answer each other honestly. And how did you build back trust?
So, of course, that's a step-by-step process there. The first thing does start with the full disclosure and being able to, come to the table and say, okay, let's get all these cards on the table, and that we're going to be open and honest regarding this there. There's a few more steps there. Number one is before you even, or at the time of full disclosure, they can go hand in hand, but you have to, one, commit to ending the affair. So you don't want to have full disclosure, getting all your questions answered and still worried about.
You have to end the affair.
Exactly. So number one, as far as end the affair first. So then that way, number two, you can come to the table kind of with that clean slate a little bit, knowing that at least that gives you some peace of mind, knowing, okay, the affair, what was done is done. So now we can sort out why the affair happened, what we could have done differently and what we're going to do now. And then, what we're going to do, going forward. And then, to Chris's point, thirdly, is being very vulnerable because, it's a lot of emotions that's involved. It's a lot of judgment. It's a lot of shame. And, sometimes we don't want to fess up and own up and be, real about some things. So, especially for men, I think being very vulnerable to say, hey, you know what? My emotional needs weren't being met. It wasn't all physical, and a lot of the times, even though statistically men have more sexual, physical affairs versus women have more emotional affairs. However, don't get it twisted. Men get into emotional affairs as well because their emotional needs with their spouse or significant other, isn't being met. So thirdly, being able to create that vulnerable, safe place to speak freely. And like Chris says, don't jump down the other person's throat in that. And fourthly is understanding why it happened, really dissecting. It's not enough just to say, okay, I think this happened, but okay, it's my understanding that this happened because A, B, C. Did I miss anything? Because that's important. You don't want to miss anything in that. And then, the list goes on. The biggest one.
Don't give up all the details of this juicy, good book of yours.
It's a whole long list in here.
I love it.
Look, it's like 10, 12 different tips there. So, but again, I want to make sure we give value. So, and the last tip is no more lies. So that's all you all get because Queen K said cut you off. So no more lies. And then you got to get the book.
And
yes, you have,
also,
to get the book.
I'd like to add something else to that. Ladies, more so than the guys, don't feed into what Hollywood, the media has taught you all this time. Guys, and I'm going to break the guy code. Guys have emotions. Guys have feelings.
Yes.
We as men want our women to be that strong person that we can go to because we go out there, we get beat down at work. We get beat down in the media. You turn on the TV, what happens? Who's in the news? We are. For whatever. How often do you see women in the news compared to men for something that they did? So we're always under the microscope. And I'm not saying that this is giving you a pass, men, not by any means. Don't take it that way. But ladies, when you're talking to your guy and you're trying to get to the root of whatever problems are going on, you have to talk with a little kindness sometimes, because when you're close to someone, you usually feel, oh, I can go in on them any kind of way to get my answer, and they're still going to be there. Don't be fooled, because you will be let down. You won't get the true answers that you want, or you may just shut that person down and you'll never get the answers that you're looking for.
Wow, that's amazing. So I have a question. I think that a lot of people struggle with this particular point and or situation, which is it's not that easy to end the affair. Do you agree?
You know what? The older I get, the more I really don't care about. Well, let me rephrase this because I'll be blunt sometimes. um,
Too blunt.
the older I get, those that aren't doing things to help me progress in life,
Mhm.
I really don't need them in my life, especially if they know that they're contributing to me going backwards instead of forwards. So it really depends on, at least in my opinion, what stage of life you're at.
Well, to answer that question more specifically for the viewers, did you find it difficult to end the affair with her?
Not to end the affair, that was easy. The part that was difficult was, one, I knew I hurt you, but then on the other side, even though they were a full and willing participant, I hurt someone else. And I'm one of those people, I'm a people person. So I do care about other people's feelings, even though I can be blunt sometimes. But
Yeah.
it depends on the person. That you have some people that could care less on who they hurt. They'll just do whatever it takes in their mind. Some people are so connected to others that if they have to tell them they can't go to the movies with them, they just break down and have a issue with that. So it really depends on the person.
Hmm. So what I hear is that um, there's a connection regardless of how short or how deeply committed you most guys are to the other person. That for some it's easier and for some it's not to end. And speaking for yourself, it was easy to end it, but it was hard for you to deal with the fact that you hurt two people emotionally, especially your wife.
Exactly,
Who,
because I'm not the type of person that goes around just hurting people. I never
yeah,
have been like that. So
wow. And
And
you know,
can I add something?
yes,
I just want to make it clear also for the record, because I mean, some of your viewers may know a little bit of our story and most of them probably don't. But during our engagement, I ended up having an affair and cheating on Chris during our engagement. And so I
ooh,
had, a little bit of the same scenario, a little bit mine, happened a little bit differently there. But I want to point out that the same was true for me too, that it was very difficult because, of course, I started out with an emotional affair, unbeknownst to what I was getting into, that, turned physical. But I started caring about this person because just kind of same thing with Chris, she wasn't a bad person, just entered a bad scenario. Same thing, with him, was a good person. But at the end of the day, I knew that my loyalty and my love was with Chris, and that was the relationship that I wanted to continue. And so, of course, there was no way that I could continue my relationship with Chris and still be over here in this other relationship. So it was just like, okay, being realistic, I have to end that. It's inevitable sometimes. We're going to hurt other people's feelings. But like Chris said, even being sensitive, with that person and going and saying, this was not my intention. I'm sorry that this happened. As much as I don't want to hurt your feelings, at the end of the day, my love and my loyalty is with my spouse, and that's the relationship that I choose to continue on
yeah.
with. So, I have to end things with you.
And I think that a lot of people don't really think this through as it can be in passion in the heat of the moment, right? But if they really sat down to think about it, like I know it's easy to say, but when you think about it, most times you know that this journey is not going to go far. Eventually, the person that is the other person, whether the other woman or the other man, is going to want to do something different with their life than just be the other. So, or eventually, the person that's committing the affair might decide, I don't want to do this anymore for whatever reason, whether you got caught or it just doesn't feel right. And somebody's going to get hurt, right? So, how do you, um, engaged or newlyweds, or even people who've been married for a while, infidelity proof their marriage? How do you do it? Because there is the before. There's the before somebody actually makes that decision and then decides, I'm going to do it. And you cross the line. And once you cross the line, it's hard to go back. So how do you infidelity proof your marriage or relationship?
So some of the tips, and that's a great question because I try to come from more of a proactive standpoint there through our learnings. And one is really prioritizing your marriage or your relationship and really stopping, because we're so busy in life, go, 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 that in our hearts, and I was guilty of that, all day long, Chris is my number one priority. However, the truth of the matter is if I stopped and looked at how much time I was dedicating and spending to my career in corporate America, it would have been obvious to me. But because I was I had, told myself this in my heart, but not looking at the reality of the situation. So number one is prioritizing your marriage and really asking yourself, how am I intentional in making my marriage a priority? Or am I overcommitted in my career, in my church, to my children and things of that nature? So number one, prioritizing your marriage. Two is avoiding temptation. So often we lie to ourselves. And I know as a woman, I'm sure you probably can relate to this too, Kay. Oh, okay, I can go to lunch with this fine man or brother and we just gonna be friends. Even though you feel an inkling, a little ounce of attraction. We still go to lunch and we still participate in these things where we leave ourselves vulnerable. And I talk about that in one of the chapters in the book about windows and walls, and specifically don't even open that window a little crack to let anyone in. So two is avoiding temptation. What's it?
Very strong boundaries about protection. Like, you're leaving your house and you put your security code in. It's the same thing. You have to protect yourself from these type of things because it happens every day.
Exactly. And another big one is third, knowing your vulnerabilities. And for example, to get real specific, is I didn't realize that for me, I thrive on compliments, specifically because my love language is affirmations. And so I prefer, of course, my compliments to come from my husband, but when I guess I wasn't getting enough of that and I wasn't aware and conscious of this, the other individual who I had the affair with was feeding into my need of, having compliments. So me being conscious of that was a vulnerability for me and being mindful, I can now counter that there. So, understanding what are your vulnerabilities. And then the last tip I'll give, you want the rest of them, you have to get the book. But number 4 is crystal clear communication. One thing I think we, especially as women, and yeah, ladies, I'm gonna pick on us for a minute. My husband broke the guy code. I'm gonna break the women's code here. And that is thinking that our men should be psychic. Well, he should know me by now. And, and it's like, no, you wouldn't want him to think that of you. So you need to take whatever the issue is clearly to him. First, be clear with yourself. That means you got to write it out, get out of your head on paper so you can formulate how you want to position this talk with him. But saying, whatever it is, the issue is, don't hint around it. Because I have had people, they'll say, I took the issue to my husband. No, you didn't take the issue to your husband. You hinted around the issue to your husband, hoping that your husband would try to connect the dots. So crystal clear communication is key.
Wow, that's incredible. And I think what you said about, from just the women's perspective, let's touch on that a little bit, about knowing what you like as a woman. And most women, even some men, they want their own spouse to affirm them. And when that is not happening and it's not communicated, like you just said, then when it creates a vulnerability where if some guy is, say my husband is not telling me, oh, I'm beautiful, or he, appreciates my cooking or the efforts I'm making, there's that vulnerability. No matter how much I'm a good, Christian wife and I'm praying, it might be a brother at church, Sister KK, you know what I mean? And say, hey, wow, your husband didn't, compliment you, your dress is beautiful. And, Next thing, you're meeting for innocent coffee and maybe catching a matinee.
Uh-huh. And that's exactly how it goes. It is, because you're allowing yourself, and sometimes you're conscious of it, sometimes you're not, but somewhere in between subconscious and conscious comes, okay, if you can't tell your spouse about this person, or you can't have a conversation, that's a problem.
I see. So identifying what if my spouse or my partner will not be happy with this quote unquote connection or meeting or texting or phone call, then it's a problem.
Absolutely.
Because that will stop you from going further and nipping it in the bud than just continuing, and then it will lead to something that's going to hurt a lot of people and be difficult to break away from.
Absolutely. And the other thing of that, the people really want to be conscious of this, really not talked about. And that was another reason why I wrote the book, and I was so passionate about talking about it, is because for me, I was innocent in the sense of, okay, this was someone that, he was engaged to a woman and he was about to fly away to go be with her. I'm engaged to Chris. So to me, it was no way possible that we were going to hook up. I mean, he's engaged happily. So am I. So what was the chances of this happening? So I went in and I'm not a naive person, which was really crazy for me to think that this could even happen. But now looking back at it, I can analyze the environment and share with you just what I'm sharing. If I'm not able to talk to my, fiance at the time, or, talk to my spouse about this, then that's a problem. But, being very mindful that even the most innocent of situations can turn into an emotional affair or physical affair or both. So be very careful about what you're entering into with someone, with that type of potential.
Wow. This is one of those things that we could be talking about this and it wouldn't end, but we've learned so much from this conversation. I have one more question. Then we can talk, we can try to wrap up. What were the keys to your marriage survival? Just name one or two. I don't want to give out too much. What were the keys? The 2 keys. One from Chris and one from you.
You go first.
Ladies first, huh?
Sure.
We got issues over here. Don't mind us, Wow, there were a lot, but I would say the first is being recommitted to our marriage. In other words, we weren't going to let the devil get the glory in our marriage. And the truth of the matter is, like Chris said, regardless that took place, it didn't mean that we did not love each other, that we weren't in love with each other, that we didn't care for each other. So being committed to our marriage, but again, making a conscious effort and decision to recommit to designing our new marriage.
I love that. And Chris, what is your key? It's something you can share.
My key is to decide how bad you really want it. And as we were having this conversation here tonight, I was thinking about something. Usually when you see a happy couple, they're facing each other, noses touching, they're smiling, and all that lovey-dovey stuff. Well, in actuality, the way I'm seeing it is, to avoid all this, you have to be back to back like you're in combat. So I'm protecting her because I can see what's behind her, and she can protect me because she's looking the opposite direction. So therefore, thank you. And so we got to watch each other's back. And, that's what it's about. How bad do you really want it? Do you want to fight it out and get out of the situation, or avoid the situation totally? Or do you want to just throw in the towel? And I'm a fighter. So
wow. It was worth it for you because you knew that the future that you want to build, you couldn't build it with anybody else but Da-Nay. So she was worth fighting for. And
yeah, I guess.
Giggling.
I guess I keep her.
I love you guys. Honestly, I really, really, really appreciate your being so candid and upfront and honest. And I hope that a lot of people can learn from this conversation. And not only that, getting the book, I think, will give them more nuggets to not just work on redesigning the kind of marriage that they would like, but also infidelity proofing, like checking in with each other and doing all those things that
Yes.
a book alone cannot do it, but reading the book and then committing to each other, you know, will help. And
Absolutely.
I really learned a lot from this. Honestly, I can't even say that I have all the answers of anything at all. I'm a student of life, but I didn't even realize that I would have so many aha moments in this conversation about what it really feels like to just talk to two people. And then, of course, the interesting thing was I didn't know that Da-Nay had done anything before while you guys were getting ready to marry. So that was like something new, and it really it put a female perspective. And then you also mentioned that the other person was in a happy
Yeah.
situation. So sometimes these things happen. And I guess one final question is: are happy marriages exempt from infidelity? And what do you define as a happy marriage?
Oh, good question. So, in that one, the answer is no. No one is exempt from affairs, infidelity, because, when you looked at during the time, now it was different when we were married, and to a certain degree,
We were married.
I mean, I'm sorry.
Wait,
My brain.
before.
Look, it's been a long day. We on Eastern time, and it's 10:06 over here. Okay, but during when you look at our engagement versus the beginning year of when we were married and Chris had his affair versus when I had mine, it was kind of two different times and two different dynamics. We were still happy when in the beginning, it was the first year of our marriage when the affair happened with Chris there. So we were happy. I was just working a whole lot, and there was the element Chris was unhappy with, rightfully so. However, during our engagement, we were like off the charts, connected, fully happy. Every life was good. There wasn't the issues during the engagement that we had during the first year of marriage. So that's why I give that example of we were super solid happy, However, an affair was able to enter in because I didn't have a love after adultery. I didn't have someone's story to say, okay, you need to be aware of your environments that you're putting yourself in and you also need to stop lying to yourself about you're a strong woman. You can go out to lunch with an attractive guy and you're not gonna, fall for him. You're not gonna eat up his compliments, all of these things there, and being honest. So I think had I had a book like mine, there's no way that this would have happened. But to answer your question, even the happiest of marriages can be hit and rocked by an affair if you're not careful and know the signs to look for in advance.
Wow.
And there was a second part of the question. What was the second part again, Queen?
What is a happy marriage?
I think everyone has a different definition because they're at different times during our marriage, different things make us happy. One thing I like to share, and it's corny, but I like to share it. Something that we like to do or used to do is late at night, after work, after everything's said and done, when we should be in bed sleep, we'll sit up and watch a bad horror movie on TV.
Oh.
And that's one of the things that would keep us connected. And it's an hour and 30 minutes. You're not really saying anything. Well, bad horror movies, you're yelling at the TV screen.
Screaming.
Tell me how stupid they are.
Right.
Don't fall, don't trip, don't die.
Right. And we would connect on that. Now we have a new TV show that we like and can't wait for it to start back up. And I won't mention it because they're not paying you. So it's something else we connect on. And we also, connect on going out with date nights and just having dinner and just being yourself. But you have to connect.
Yeah.
And
That
speaking of
is
that,
true.
key, the last thing I'll say on that, because I know you're about to close us out, is date nights. They're not optional. They are critical to the success of your marriage to stay connected, because life pulls us in so many different directions. And if you're not intentional about setting and keeping your date nights,
Just not during football season on Sundays.
Yeah.
he tripping.
It's crazy, Chris. Wow, there are so many questions popping through, but I can't possibly answer them all. And I was hoping that people would ask questions way before the broadcast, but I'm gonna just have to end this, and people can definitely connect with the amazing Da-Nay Macklin. She's a speaker, motivational speaker, writer, prolific writer, and she now also is an infidelity coach, and so she does a lot of things that will help if you're in this type of situation. Feel free to reach out to her after the broadcast. I'll put it on the link so you know how to reach her. And of course, Chris is an amazing up and coming filmmaker, real estate investor. He's about his money so that he can have design the life that he wants, and for him and his beautiful family. And we didn't even touch on the fact that you have this beautiful, amazing daughter. I think that we shouldn't we should just kind of mention that that's probably one of the reasons why you guys decided to work through what you have. Am I right?
No, she wasn't even in the picture during the time. She wasn't even, well, she was a thought, but she wasn't
Planned.
planned at
Okay.
the time. She was planned though.
Well,
She wasn't a factor at the time. She wasn't in
Okay.
the mix.
She hadn't made her appearance. So this happened
Right.
years. Okay. Okay. So that's good. I just wanted to make sure, because a lot of people, when this happens, there are children involved.
I'll tell you what. This will probably lead you into a part 3 where you'll have to meet with us again, and really you get the exclusive announcement on this there. So Michaela has come into Factor recently. We went through a separation, and that was very difficult there. I forgot, I don't know if it was like 3 months. It wasn't too long, for we to come to, our senses. I know Chris is looking at, God gave us some revelations there, but definitely more so with me. And, we can talk about that, have an interview over that another time. But this was very recent, from November 9th, I believe, to March 3rd of this, past year, that we had a separation. And then Michaela did play a big part in that. It wasn't, I will never say stay together for the sake of your children. That I will never say. At the same time, though, we recognize that God is really, really, really using our marriage to be a platform to give other marriages hope and help them navigate through very rough waters there. And during that time, our angel, our joy baby, we recognized what it really meant, the true value of family, and what we were creating for her, being able to be parents, married parents, to lead by example. So one day, we'll be able to share these golden nuggets with her, like when she goes through the tough times, to say, hey, I think I want to, leave my husband, or my husband's thinking about leaving me, where we can sit down and say, baby, we've been there and done that. Here's things to consider, but most of all, to show you how to create a happy, successful marriage on your own terms.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Da-Nay and Chris, for sharing your very personal life story with us, and teaching me and the many people that are watching and will watch this program, why it's important to do all you can to work on your relationship, and that the fact is that you guys are proof that you can overcome it, by the grace of God, and with a little hard work. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on, and we definitely will have more different kinds of conversations. Maybe, who knows, we might have a part 3, but for right now, I mean, I want to watch this over and just kind of write down a lot of nuggets, and I can't wait to get the book, because I cannot, I just have to really understand the mind of Miss Da-Nay and how she put this together. Thank you so much. You
I don't
guys,
know if anyone will ever be able to understand this mind. Some days I don't even understand it, you know, but God gave it to me, so a sister just works with what she has.
well, you two have a wonderful evening. I know it's late over there. And thank you so much to the viewers. Again, after the broadcast, I'll make sure that I have Da-Nay's information in in the info section of the link. It's going to be on YouTube, so you can reach out to her and ask questions, or perhaps she might be a coach for you and your spouse, and hopefully make it work. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.